Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is the 51st episode, and it's gonna be about a session I played last weekend at a little spot called Harrah's Casino. I've made a vlog here before, as you can see, but I haven't been back in a while, and I kinda got my ass handed to me that time, so I thought it was time to go back and seek some redemption. I won't spoil what happened, but let's just say things were pretty interesting in my opinion. Before jumping into the video, however, I wanted to do a quick announcement for you guys. Next month in March, I'll be heading over to Texas with Johnny Vibes himself. Here are the details regarding the trip. We'll be jumping back and forth between 1-3 no limit and 5-5 no limit. So if that sounds like a good time to you, make sure to come out and say what's up. Furthermore, this Friday, March 6th, I'll be heading into Los Angeles to play some 5-5 no limit at the bike, where I'll be making a vlog. So for anyone who's local and is interested in exchanging some chips, you know where to find me. Anyway, back to Harrah's. This place is a little bit low-key. Many of you probably haven't heard of it, but the few of you who have know that it doesn't get a lot of games going. So you gotta go pretty much on weekends, and the biggest game they get is 1-3. So why even go out here at all, right? Well, the main reason for coming out here is that they have a pretty awesome promotion on the weekends. Specifically, what that means is they throw in $100 of match plays every 30 minutes, and they also choose a random seat at every table to win, I think, $50 also in match plays. These match plays can be used all over the casino, but the best way to use them if you're trying to make the most money is through video poker, where your expectation is around 95%. So as I said, I haven't been here in a while and thought I'd try it again, obviously bring you guys along for the ride, and things got pretty crazy. So with all that being said, let's jump into some hands because there's quite a few of them this time. Alright, we are underway here, playing some 1-3 no limit, and I buy in for $400. Pretty early on, I look down at ace-jack offsuit first to act. I raise it up to 15 and get called by just the button. So heads up to a flop of king 5-3. I check it, and he puts out a bet of $20. I think my hand could still be good here, so I make the call and decide to see what happens on the turn, which is a 6 of hearts. I check it to him once again, and he doesn't slow down. This time he puts out a bet of $55. Something about the way he bets here, and also just the fact that this board is pretty dry, seems a little too forced, and he just kind of has that face like he tries to steal pots. So I make the call once again, probably going to fold to a triple barrel, but for now I'm getting a little curious. The river comes a deuce. I check it to him again, but this time he checks it back. I announce ace high, and he says, that's good. So guys, if you're going to bluff me, please consider how far I drove from home. This place is like over an hour, so the more time invested, the less likely I am to fold pretty much anything. Sorry in advance. A few minutes later, we get the first splash pot on our table of the day, $50 of match play money in the middle, and I look down at pocket jacks. I have no idea how much I should be raising to here, so I decide to make it just $60, and everyone lets their hand go. A few orbits later, I look down at king 10 of hearts from under the gun. I raise it to 15 and get called by the cutoff, button, and big blind. So multi-way here to a flop of jack 7-3 with just one heart out there, so pretty much nothing going on for me. Action checks to the cutoff, who puts out a bet of $30. I'm pretty much done with the hand, except both the button and big blind call. So now it's a little bit closer of a spot. We have 3 to a straight and 3 to a flush. So there's a lot of turn cards that can improve our equity. We're getting a good price. So I decide to just make the call and see what happens on the turn. Turn card's the 8 of clubs, and the action this time checks all the way around. The river comes a 10 of spades, big blind checks, and unless someone has a 9 here, it's going to be pretty impossible for anyone to call since it doesn't seem like anyone's too strong after the turn checked around. So I decide to just take a stab here into 3 people, probably not recommended, but in the moment it felt right. So I put out $100. The cutoff thinks for a while, but ends up making the fold, and then the button goes all in for $350. The big blind folds, and yeah, this hand is pretty much over since he has a 9. Probably not one of my best plays. Later on, the under the gun player opens to $15, and I look down at king 10 of clubs early on. I make the call, and the blinds make the call as well. So 4 ways to a flop of queen 9-3 with 2 clubs. So we flop a bunch of equity here with an inside straight draw and the flush draw. Action checks to the under the gun player, who continues for $40. Nothing to do here but make the call, I think, and see what happens on the turn. Both of the blinds fold, so we're heads up here, and the turn comes a king of hearts, obviously improving us to top pair, but I'm not really feeling too great about it when the under the gun player continues betting, this time to the tune of $70. It's pretty unlikely he's going to be betting anything worse than king 10 here, so I think we're still behind and are looking for some improvement, but obviously can't fold just yet. So I make the call once again, and we get bailed out with a jack of diamonds river card. This time he checks it. I only have around $150 more. So even though I'm almost going to have no bluffs here, what else am I going to do but go all in? So that's what I do. Unfortunately, after thinking for about 2 or 3 minutes, he ends up making the fold, claiming that he had king queen. So we don't get the double up, but that's alright. Still a healthy size pot for this game. Shortly after, I look down at ace king, and I'll just cut to the chase. After much raising and re-raising, I got all in for around $300 each versus pocket 9s. And I lost that one. Riveting, I know. Moments later, we have another splash pot going on in which I flop top pair with 9-8 of hearts, put out a bet on the flop, and everyone folds. So we take down our second splash pot of the day. In the next one, the straddle is on, and I look down at pocket 10s from under the gun. I raise it up to $25 and just get called by the straddler. So we're in position, heads up to a flop of king 4 deuce. He checks it, and even though there's a king out there, I think I want to put in a bet just to keep control of the hand and also deny equity from overcards like ace queen and ace jack. The straddler makes the call. Turn card's the jack of hearts, another overcard to our pair, so when he checks it to me, I'm just going to check it back and try to get to showdown. The river is the 9 of hearts, completing the backdoor flush, and when he checks it to me, I'm happy to just showdown and hope that we beat whatever he's got, which is exactly what happens this time after our opponent shows ace queen offsuit. In this next hand, there's a $15 open from an early position player, a caller in the field, and I call in late position with pocket 2s. The flop comes down 10-8-4 rainbow, and when the action checks to me, I think I'm going to have the best hand here pretty often. So I decide to bet $25. The initial raiser makes the call, and the middle position player folds. Turn card's the 10 of clubs. He checks it to me once again, and I expect I'm still going to have the best hand here often enough, so I put in a bet of $60. I'm not really expecting to get called by worse, but our hand could really use some protection since we don't want to see an ace, king, queen, jack, 8, or 4. However, something pretty interesting happens now where the initial raiser check raises to 165. This doesn't make a lot of sense to me. He's representing almost nothing here aside from trip 10s and full houses. But the thing is, my opponent in this hand is a thinking player, so he shouldn't really have a 10 here that often unless it's specifically quad 10s, so I decide to call and see what happens on the river. I will say I don't really like his sizing. It looks a lot more like value than a bluff, but I just shrug and make the call, as I often do. The river is the 7 of diamonds, and my opponent shoves all in for $250, I think is how much I had left at this point. This card doesn't really change anything, so I decided to just click the call button and hope that he's bluffing. However, this time that's completely the wrong decision because he had king 10. Nice hand, Matt. One thing I would like to say before moving on to the next hand is, even though my hand is really weak and a fold is obviously fine on the turn or river, Our hand strength specifically isn't actually relevant here because my opponent is representing better than one pair. So if you call down with 9s, 7s, 6s, 5s, it's really all the same. You're either catching a bluff or losing to a monster. In the next one, there's 2 limpers, and I raise it up on the button to $20 with Queen Jack of Diamonds. Both of the limpers make the call, so 3 ways to a flop here of 5-5-3 with 2 hearts. Action checks to me. I don't want to bluff after that pocket 2's hand since my image is pretty crappy at this point, so I just check it back. Turn card doesn't help at all. It's the 4 of hearts. Action checks to me, and I'm obviously done with the hand. However, the river is the deuce of hearts, putting 4 to a straight flush out there. And if anyone's going to have the ace of hearts here, or even just an ace for a straight, it's going to be me. I'm also going to have the king of hearts more often than my opponents here, so when the action checks to me, I can't help myself. They checked it to me 3 times. I'm just going to cross my fingers and hope that these guys don't have a strong flush here. The under the gun player folds, and then the guy on my right starts thinking about it for a while. I've been pretty friendly with this player, so I ask him to show me his cards just for shits and giggles, and you won't believe what he flips over. Pocket 5s. Yup, you heard me right. This guy flopped 4 of a kind and is now debating on folding since there's 4 to a straight flush out there. I just gotta go ahead and say, I don't care what the run out is, I'm never folding quads, but credit to this player for even thinking about it this long. Then something interesting happens. He kind of slides his cards forward a little bit to show the rest of the table. The dealer misunderstands this as a fold, grabs them, and sticks them in the muck. So, pretty crazy hand. I don't have much to say about it aside from, guys, always protect your hand, but also the dealer should confirm with a player before just grabbing his cards and throwing them in the muck. So, I see fault on both sides here. All I know is Queen High is taking it down versus 4 of a kind. So if that last hand wasn't interesting enough, this one here might actually top that, but it needs a little bit of backstory first. And I'm going to start it off with my main poker taboos. These are things that I don't think anyone should ever do at a poker table. And there's really not many of them, but here they go. Number 1, never talk poker strategy during a poker game. Secondly, seat hopping. Specifically, if it's to gain position over a player. If it's for comfort or whatever, that's fine, but trying to get an advantage on someone by being on their left, nah. Last one is taking forever in dumb spots. I'll give you guys an example. Imagine there's 3 limpers and then the button limps, and then the blind makes it $100, and then the big blind makes it $2,000. Then it folds back to the button limper and he starts thinking about it forever. Okay. In this situation, he's never gonna have a hand. You limped over 4 players and now you're facing a 3-bet out of the blinds. What are you even thinking about? Just dump your cards back to the dealer. You're wasting everyone's time. And that's exactly what happened in this game. There was a player who was repeatedly doing this and it was starting to aggravate me just a little bit. Around the 4th or 5th time that it happened, I finally spoke up and said, hey man, do you mind speeding it up a little bit, especially in spots where it doesn't seem like much of a decision? And I'll be the first to say, it's probably a little out of line for me to bring that up. Even if it's happening over and over, I'd rather everyone be having fun and relaxed, so I usually just shut up and hope that the problem solves itself. However, where this gets interesting is that my opponent did not take kindly to this and immediately asked me if I wanted to flip for our entire stacks. What this means is he goes all in blind and I go all in blind in the next hand, and whoever wins, wins the pot, obviously. I did not back down from this. Not my proudest moment, but I'm not really one to entertain someone trying to bully other people like that and trying to intimidate them with his entire stack. And I was also stuck, so what's the harm? If I lose, I'll just reload, and if I win, maybe this guy will get out of here and stop wasting everyone's time. So that's what we decided on. So in the next shuffle, I look down at Queen 8 offsuit, and I'm all in versus this guy, and he has 5-3 suited, so it turns out we're in great shape. Sure enough, the run out comes and we take this one down. I immediately feel kind of bad, so I ask him if he wants to try it one more time for a double or nothing. He doesn't hesitate and pulls out another $400. We ask permission from the rest of the table if they'll all just fold their cards next shuffle. They all oblige, so we do it one more time, and in this hand, I look down at King 10 of hearts. I'm all in again, he has King 7 offsuit, and we take this one down too. So 2 big flips in a row, and just like that, I'm up $800 just from trying to tell this guy to speed up the game a little bit, which again, was probably not my proudest moment. At this point, he goes off into the night, and we're back to playing regular poker, just with a lot more chips and a little less time being wasted. Even though those last 2 hands were full degen, borderline embarrassing, this next one is actually quite the opposite because it's pretty calculated, especially for a 1-3 game. Anyway, here we go. There's an under the gun limper, and then the button, who was a pretty solid player, raises it up to $15. I look down at ace queen of spades in the small blind, and this is going to be way ahead of the button's isolating range here, so I make it $50, and only the button makes the call. Heads up to a flop of Jack Jack 3 with 2 hearts. I down bet to $35 as I would with pretty much my entire range here, and the button makes the call, which is not surprising at all. I'm going to keep barreling on a lot of turn cards, but the 5 of diamonds isn't one of them. I check it, and he puts in a bet of $50. He could still be doing this with a wide variety of hands, so even though sometimes we'll be behind pocket pairs like 6s through 10s, or even a jack, we're getting pretty good odds to hit an ace or a queen, and also could still have the best hand a lot of the time. So I make the call and decide to play rivers. River card's the 3 of clubs, which is actually a pretty good card. It reduces the combinations of pocket 3s, obviously, and brings along the very minor detail that we now beat pocket 2s. Aside from that, if we were ahead on the turn, we should still be ahead on this river, so I'm keeping that in mind as I check it to him, and he puts in a bet of $140, so right around half pot. This is a pretty nasty spot, especially against what I think is a good player, because he could be taking us to value town with a hand like pocket 10s, pocket 9s, or whatever. He could have a jack all day long, but he could also be trying to put in a cheap bluff, since my hand is so face up as ace king or ace queen at this point. So I think about it for a while. I only have to be good here around 25% of the time. Against some tighter opposition, I'd most likely just let it go, but against a player who's capable of having bluffs here, I decided to just click the call button, and this time it was the right play because we get shown king queen offsuit. Oh yeah. Taking a quick break from editing here, just to remind you guys that if any of you are interested in checking out these hands in a little more of a live aspect, I uploaded this one in particular to Instagram right after I played it, so if that sounds cool to you, feel free to add me and we can chat about the hands over there. Alright, back to the video. As I'm happily raking in this successful ace high pot, we get dealt ace 9 offsuit, and it's another splash pot. There's a straddle, and then the player who just tried to bluff me limps in. I raise it up to $60 since I'm probably ahead of whatever these guys have, and get called by the straddler and the player on my right who limped in. So 3 ways to a flop here of ace queen 5 with 2 hearts, flopping top pair in such a big bloater. This hand's only going to end with them folding or me flipping my cards over at the end and hoping it's the best hand. So when they check to me, I move all in. They only have around 200 each at this point. The straddle folds pretty quickly, but the player on my right snap calls. I'm still fairly confident that it's the best hand. The turn on river brick out, and when I flip it over, indeed, my suspicions are confirmed, and we take down a splash pot right after winning a pretty big pot with ace queen. So things are finally going our way, and we're building up a nice little stack here. At this point, it's like 1 in the morning and the game is starting to break, and then this hand goes down. We're playing 5-handed and the hijack opens to $15. I look down at ace 10 offsuit from the small blind and I think all 3 options are on the table. This time I decide to just call, and then the big blind calls as well. So 3 ways to a flop, which is a good one. 10, 10, 8. Action checks to the initial raiser, but unfortunately he checks it back. Turn card's the 10 of spades. I'm just going to bet and hope someone has something because I've got 4 of the exact same card. The big blind folds, and then the hijack gives us some good news and raises it up to $65. What's going on here? I don't know, but I'm just going to call.
Raising here wouldn't make a lot of sense since there's really no hands I would do that as a bluff with, so trying to keep some sake of balance in my game, I decided to make the call. Also, there's not a lot of hands that he would raise on the turn that aren't going to also bet the river, so I decided to just check raise then. River's the deuce of diamonds, shouldn't change anything. I check it, hopefully he bets, and indeed he does, to the tune of $200. With a bet this big, it seems like he has either a very good full house or nothing at all, and he only has $700 behind, so I'm just going to hope that he has aces or kings. I go all in, but he snap folds. Later he said he had pocket kings, so that was a pretty sick fold by him, and we take down the very last pot of the night with quads. So yeah, a very sweet ending to the session.
Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed that ridiculous afternoon from Harrah. The results are as follows: 250-ish in poker, but even more in video poker. So maybe I should consider playing a little more of that and a little less of the no limit variety. Anyway, that's gonna wrap it up for this time, guys. As always, thanks for all the support. Thank you for watching. And if you give this video a thumbs up, I really appreciate it. It helps the channel grow quite a bit. If you're interested in some 5-5 no limit action straight from Los Angeles, make sure to subscribe for that next video. Until then, good luck at the tables. Peace.